Welcome back, everyone. I'm Dr. Kem, and I am absolutely pumped to host today's masterclass. In this explainer, we're going to explore something that honestly feels a little bit like magic, but I promise you it's grounded in pure, elegant science. We are going to look at how we can literally pull invisible metals right out of thin air, well, actually, scratch that, out of a liquid solution, using nothing but electricity. Let's dive right into this masterclass on the science of electrogravimetry and electrodeposition. Here's our roadmap for today. We'll be hitting electricity meets gravity, how electrodeposition works, potential versus constant current, the perfect conditions, and finally, real-world applications. All right, Section 1, Electricity meets gravity. I want you to listen to how researcher Olivia Reynolds describes this science because it is just beautiful. She calls it bridging the gap between electricity and gravity, conversion of electrical energy into gravitational force to measure mass. Just think about how profound that actually is. We are taking raw electrical energy and using it to generate a physical, solid mass that we can actually hold and weigh on a scale. We're fundamentally altering how we measure the invisible trace elements hidden all around us. So what's the textbook definition? Electrogravimetry is an analytical method that uses electrical current to deposit a metal onto an electrode, measuring the mass change to quantify the original substance. To put that into plain English, we're applying a direct current to a solution, which physically forces dissolved, completely invisible metal ions to turn into solid metal on an electrode. By simply weighing that electrode before and after the process, we know exactly how much of that specific metal was hiding in our sample. It's brilliant. Section 2. How metal electrodeposition works. Okay, time to put on those safety goggles. What we're looking at here is our laboratory workhorse, the classic 3-electrode cell setup. We've got a working electrode, which is usually this platinum gauze cathode, and that's where our metal is going to deposit. Then we have a platinum spiral anode. And, absolutely crucial to this setup, we have a reference electrode and a potentiostat power supply. Think of the potentiostat as the brains of the entire operation. It precisely controls the voltage to make sure we only pull the exact metal we want out of that chemical soup. So, how does this actually go down in the lab? First, we dissolve our sample in a solution, like sulfuric acid. Second, we apply a highly precise electrical current. Third, this current triggers an electrochemical reduction. That just means the metal ions, let's say copper for example, grab onto electrons and physically plate themselves onto that platinum cathode as solid metal. Finally, we carefully pull that cathode out, dry it off, and weigh it. Let's run through a quick real-world scenario to see this in action. Imagine your bare platinum cathode weighs exactly 22.3165 grams before the experiment. You run the electrodeposition on a copper sample, dry it, put it back on the scale, and now it reads 22.5433 grams. You do the math, and the difference is exactly 0.2268 grams. That tiny, incredibly precise shift in weight, that tells us, without a shadow of a doubt, exactly how much copper was in our original sample. But what is actually happening on the atomic level as that 0.2268 grams of copper builds up? Well, there are two basic mechanisms for forming a solid metal deposit. First, you can have smooth, coherent layer growth, where atoms lay down neatly, row by row, almost like bricklaying. Or you get 3D crystallite growth. This is where atoms clump together into little islands that eventually merge. It's kind of like a crowded dance floor slowly turning into one giant mosh pit. Honestly, controlling which one of these happens is the real secret art of the electrochemist. Moving on to Section 3, Potential versus Constant Current. Now we face a choice. Controlled potential uses that potentiostat we talked about earlier, and it offers incredibly high selectivity. If you've got a really complex mixture of different metals, this lets you dial in the exact voltage to pull out just one specific metal and leave the rest alone. The catch? The gear is pricey, and the process can be pretty slow. On the flip side, we have constant current, which uses a galvanostat. It's fast, simple, and the equipment is cheap, but its selectivity is super low. If you use this on a mixed solution, it's just going to deposit everything at once and give you a messy alloy. So you really only want to use constant current when you are 100% sure you've got a single metal in your solution. Section 4, the perfect coating conditions. Electrodeposition requires absolute perfection if you want a flawless deposit. You have to hit these Goldilocks conditions. Every variable has to be balanced. We have to meticulously manage the current density, basically how fast we're pushing the electricity. We have to control the electrolyte concentration and type, the solution temperature, the pH levels, and even any added colloidal materials. I'm telling you, a disruption in just one of these parameters will rapidly ruin your coating, turning a beautiful mirror finish into a powdery, useless disaster. And here is exactly what I mean. On one side, we have an absolute disaster, this fern-like structure called a dendritic deposit. This happens when your conditions are way off. For example, if your current density is too high, the solution right next to the electrode literally runs out of ions, so the metal desperately reaches out, growing into these messy branches. On the other side, pure perfection, a flawless chrome motorcycle engine block. Achieving that stunning finish requires absolute, total mastery over the variables we just discussed. So how do we guarantee we get the motorcycle engine and not the ugly metal fern? One massive trick is manipulating the electrolyte itself. For instance, if you try plating with a simple salt like silver nitrate, you're going to get a rough, coarse deposit. But if you switch to a complex salt like silver cyanide, you yield incredibly fine, super smooth deposits. Plus, chemists will sometimes add a tiny pinch of colloidal materials, literally things like gelatin or glue. These colloids absorb onto the surface of the growing metal, slow down the growth, and force the solution to form smooth, tightly packed new structures instead. It's amazing. But even with totally perfect conditions, nature still has its own rules. Cathode efficiency is not universal. This efficiency is basically the ratio of the metal that actually deposited versus what theoretically should have deposited based on the math. Nickel plating is a star student here. It hits nearly 100% efficiency. Almost every electron does exactly what it's supposed to do. But chromium plating? It notoriously struggles at around 20% efficiency. A massive amount of that electrical energy is just totally wasted on side reactions, like producing a bunch of hydrogen gas bubbles. So yeah, not all metals behave equally. Let's wrap things up with Section 5, Real-World Applications. It is time to take all this atomic mastery out of the pristine laboratory. Why does this matter? Well, we use this exact science for vital environmental monitoring, meticulously catching and measuring trace amounts of dangerous heavy metal pollutants in our drinking water. It's used for rigorous quality control in metallurgy, making sure the aerospace alloys keeping our planes in the sky have the exact right composition. And beyond just measuring, we use electrodeposition to actively change the electrical resistance of surfaces, to massively reduce friction and wear on mechanical parts, and of course, for some incredibly beautiful decorative finishing. When you see a precisely engineered, highly reflective copper coating, you are looking at a real-world testament to mastering these variables. It shows that this goes so far beyond simply slapping a coat of paint on a surface. We are truly engineering a material, atom by atom, to have the exact physical, electrical, and aesthetic properties that our modern world demands. We have literally bridged the gap between electricity and physical mass. We've taken invisible ions and built them up into flawless, functional armor. So I want to leave you with this thought. With electrogravimetry mastering the atomic scale, what invisible marvels will we bring to the surface next? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep wondering, keep exploring, and I will see you next time.